Alright, on today's agenda is Krusty needs a trailer hitch, or I need a trailer hitch on Krusty. So that's a setup out of a Beetle, and I'm going to try cutting that up and making that fit underneath Krusty's belly under here. And the way it's set up is this guy right here, it's loose, and those tabs wrap around the trans mount cross member, and then it goes forward. The only problem on this one is it's got this foreign oil filter set up and this other oil filter set up that's over here too. So on the 67 I was able to come over to these rails, drop down and go across, but that might be a little bit tighter on this one, but we'll see when we get there. First is to try to mock that up and see what it looks like. Alright, so that's that, the black piece of that trailer hitch, how it gets bolted up. As you can see now it's pinched between this piece of metal. It's got a block of metal that kind of jams it from not allowing it to go that way, so you crank down on it and it's just basically like a big pair of vice grips. So that goes all the way back, and now we got to try to figure out what to do to come out of here. And this is what was on it. And I think on the other one I kind of heated it up and I bent it straight and then put the bends in it kind of again where I wanted it. But on this one I think I'm going to go a little bit different. Not going to go use that. So I went looking around in my stash. I couldn't find any old 2-inch trailer hitch setups. So we are going to go with this Tractor Supply jobber. And we can have a 2-inch that we can kind of remove and change stuff around. Make it a little beefier, plus the ball won't be sticking out the back as far. So I'll figure out how to cut that up shortly, but that's where we are. Alright, after further looking at it, if I just welded that right to that hitch and made something coming across, it would have been facing slightly downhill, and I kind of want to leave a little bit of space around the exhaust. So I want to kick this bracket, put a little bit of a V going into it. So we got a couple of sockets in there, and a floor jack underneath it, and put some pressure on it. I'm going to try heating it in 2 spots and see if I can get that to kick up while it's still on the truck. I don't know if you can see it, but you got a slight bend to it now. Just enough to make it so it's level instead of facing downhill. Alright, so what I decided to do is kind of jump on the bumper a little bit, kick a light on you. And what I want to do is see if I can get rid of that lump in the lip of the bottom of the bumper. I tried yanking down on it with a couple of adjustables, but it doesn't pull down evenly, so I have the jack with a 2x4 and a piece of steel on it, and I'm going to see if I can kind of beat down on it from the top and see if I can get that to go flat, so give me a nice area to sandwich some metal around it. Okay, so I hammered that flat as I can get it, doing with the 2x4 and a piece of rod from the top. Don't go fuzzy on me. So now what I did was I took, this is a piece of 1x1 thick wall square stock, drilled through that, and then there's a plate on top which is 1/4 inch thick. It's 2 inches wide, 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide, right about that wide, and both of these are about 8 inches wide. So it kind of gave me some sandwiching of the back bumper instead of just trying to screw into the tin of the bumper and use it for support, because it's not very strong. But I figured that would be a good, you know, this whole thing has to be removable, so I could take those 2 bolts out. I could weld that to this, so that'll go just like that, and then I can weld the back of it, this part of the hitch, to the square stock too. So that'll make it all one piece, and I'll have me attached in basically 3 places in the front, 2 places in the back. After I get that squared away, I'm going to look into what I can do to come off the frame, come down and across and attach to it, just like I did on the 67. The same but different. The 67 was kind of tucked up a little bit better because it didn't have some stuff in the way, where this one does. Alright, I started getting into the job and forgot to grab the camera, so I'm not sure how far ahead I stepped, but anyway, this is what we got. These are all tacked together and drilled, so if I pull these 2 bolts and those 2 bolts in the back, the whole assembly will drop down. And now I want to try to make the other outrigger part of it and get them a little more strength. I got solid bar here. This is a 1-inch solid square, pretty beefy stuff. And I'm trying to figure out where I want to tuck it in. Do I want to tuck it below this or above it? The only thing that's kind of above it, it's a little close to the exhaust clamps, and you got to remember the motor's still on rubber, so it can kind of move a little bit. So you want to leave a little bit of a gap in there. And the other part I have the oil filter over here, and I got to be able to have access of changing that filter without getting ridiculous and having to take the trailer hitch down just to change the filter. So I want to leave space in there. So this would be the lower position where you kind of see it, and that's plenty of room. And actually, when I had it above too, it wasn't too bad to get out of there. So we'll see. So I figured I'd start doing the drop downs now and then figure that out afterwards. And what I have here is this is 1/4 inch standoff, so it's like a 3x3 inch block, and then I have this I'm gonna say that's 3/16. I'm gonna drop down and I'll weld that these two pieces together and trim off the excess once I find out where I want it. And so it'll be, you could pull those two bolts out, and because I have the shims in there, it comes straight down, you know, it's not locked around the top of that bracket. And I think that should do it. So I'm going to continue on and make up the one for the other side and have that drop down, and then kind of go from there and finalize where I want that center bar. So we'll see. Alright, so I got it all everything cut and tacked where it should be going, and some of them I went over a little bit more than a tack just to try to hold it, because I don't want to get too tweaky when I drop it down and weld it, and then try to put it back up and nothing lines up. So, but I gotta weld this guy pretty stout to that piece coming off, and might even bridge that little triangle there. We'll see. I ended up dropping a bar on the low side. Probably the main reason why is because right here, this is where all the hot cooling air that's cooled off the engine exits. And I figure if I put the bar up in there, I kind of would have impeded that a little bit. So, plus if I ever go and hit anything, see that strainer right there? I figure the bar would be lower than the strainer, so that would take the hit first before I smash off that little aluminum oil filter cartridge. Alright, well, I'm going to drop the whole thing out of there and see if we can start welding that thing up. Alright, so I got my little Martian over here cooling off. Finished up welding everything, and figure I'd let it cool down and hit it with some probably some flat black paint or something. The only other thing I did was the piece that I cut off of this bar on the end, I stuck over here to bridge this piece to that one. So I welded all that up solid under there so that it's got some a little more support. I didn't want the whole thing just hanging off these two little runners. So that should work out good. Now hopefully everything stayed the same size and it'll fit right back up in its little cubby hole there, and that could be good. I still have to add two round circles of some sort to hang the chains from, so I gotta come up with something there. Well, it's getting time to wrap it up. It's getting dark out, but I got finished what I wanted to get finished, and trailer just painted it all, put back on, and this is what we got. So I just welded two big old chain links. Yeah, they're big, huh? For the to hang the safety chains from. Give me something to attach there, and that's pretty much it. I got clearance for everything. The motor's got some space around it. I'm a little lower than my oil there, so I won't worry about smashing that off. I can get my oil filter out. And there's plenty of room to get that. And I think that's about got it. And pull 2, 4, 6 bolts, and the whole thing drops straight down so I can have access to everything. And this red monstrosity is part of my future plans, but we're towing behind this. But also just to tow a little, I have like a little tiny single axle trailer, and it's got like a 2,000 pound capacity, so I figured I could throw some bikes on the back of that if I want to go to a show, and give me a little bit more space. So that's the idea of the trailer hitch. That and a wooden boat, if I want to show that. So, alright guys, well, I'm winding it down for the night. Again, thanks for watching, commenting, subscribing, and you all have a good night.